And the uptrend continues with yesterday's Fed announcement that they're going to start tapering. They are going to be reducing their bond buying by $10 billion a month to $75 billion, and they plan to phase it out completely by the end of 2014. Now, some people might be confused by the market's reaction. They have said critically that they plan to keep rates low for an extended period, even if unemployment rate declines to 6.5%. So that's very bullish. I mean, they're going to find one way or another to continue to print money, whether it's through bond buying or some other means. And I'd imagine as tapering is phased out, they're going to phase in something to counter the lack of tapering. So the markets see that as bullish. We got a lot of key volume signals yesterday across the major averages that were heading lower and then reversed to finish pretty much at their highs of the day. So things are looking status quo. You know, we've had this loose uptrend all year where the market sells off just to the breaking point where leaders get hit, tarnished, and taken to the shed and shot, causing most people to sell and timing models to go to sell signals or cash signals. So it's made 2013 perhaps one of the most challenging years because this oscillation just perfectly fits erroneous sell signals or cash signals. And it's been much more of a day traders or buy and hold market. I mean, this is the first, well, the last few years have been manipulated higher by quantitative easing, which is a form of money printing. And we see that, you know, as O'Neill said, 2009 was the toughest year of his career. But I think he'd agree that every year since has been a bit harder, just simply because 2011, 2012 were trendless, volatile years. And then this year has been an uptrend, but it's been completely manufactured. So it's been a situation where you can't really use tried and true methods. Many of these tried and true methods didn't work in 2009, but the remaining ones stopped working in 2013. So the best thing to do was to continue to monitor the QE situation. And if you're going to play stocks, either you hit a taser like we guided investors into, and you could trade that because the upward momentum on that was huge and the fundamentals were great. Or if you're playing lesser stocks, you trade them for a day or you swing trade them. The alternative is to buy and hold a major average. And we all know that buy and hold generally doesn't work, with the exceptions of very rare years such as this one. And then we also see that you know, commodities haven't been anywhere. They've been in a downtrend, gold and silver downtrend, which speaks to the lack of a global recovery. The economies worldwide, China, India, Europe, U.S., UK, have been stagnant, and the central banks have been printing money more aggressively than ever before, you know, in Australia, Japan, UK, Europe, U.S., and so forth. So we're in a very unusual situation that we haven't seen before, and you know, we have to always be nimble and flexible when trading the market. And so, you know, in this year, part of that part of being a successful investor, we've noticed from the ones, our members who have been successful, are the ones who did hit the Teslas, a very rare stock that did very well, and then we've got some others that trade it on a shorter term, trade stocks on a shorter term level. And then we've got others that have, you know, just you buy SVXY or XIV and you go to sleep. The thing is, those are pretty wide and loose uptrends, but the fundamental backdrop is that as long as the Fed maintains these excessively low rates, that's good for the general markets. And what's good for the general markets is also good for instruments like SVXY and XIV. So yeah, I guess going into the end of the year, we'll probably get you know, the Santa Claus rally starting after Christmas. The 26th to the 31st tends to be statistically more bullish. Very little news going on, and people are in a generally good mood. So you often do see a light volume rally take place there into the end of the year. Gil?
Yeah, I mean, yesterday was a crazy day. And I was like all over the place because right after the announcement of the taper, I was short names like LinkedIn, for example, and even was short Yelp, which was breaking about $2-3. And so I started piling on the short side once the market started coming off, and then once it reversed and turned green again, I'm scrambling to cover and get out of the way, which I did in a reasonable amount of time and avoided getting my head taken off. But that was probably the craziest day I've seen since the fall of 2008, where we would regularly have 300 to 400 intraday point swings on the Dow. And that was pretty crazy, Dr. K. Have you ever seen anything that nutty? I mean, other than what we saw back in 2008, where you have those 300, 400 point swing days on the Dow?
Yeah, I mean, this year has been all about baby steps, you know. And so to see a day like yesterday was quite unusual for a year like this one.
Yeah, and it was pretty wild. So, you know, by the end of the day, I'm looking around for things I want to get long. Using my handy-dandy HDSI chart. Yesterday, for example, I saw, last night, saw Solar City, and I bought a little bit of this yesterday towards the close. But notice, yes, this is yesterday, so I'm seeing these all start to turn blue, so it's telling me it's starting to settle down. You notice you have this choppy action. You get very tight along moving averages. That stock is up 384, 385, 7% on the day right now. So it's up here, you know, above 56 and breaking out of this, I guess if you want to draw downtrend lines across here, you could, and it's breaking out through that. So pretty strong move. It's got some overhead. The way I handle something like this is, since I loaded to the boat this morning when it was pulled off a little bit pre-open, I sell into this. So I'm also keeping an eye on Twitter. Yesterday, you know, you see this turning red on the 2-day Forest Index, but as it's pulling in, you're still seeing blue up here. And I bought this as well and then sold it up a buck or so, bagged a profit. But what I'm really looking for here is a movement down towards the 10-day, give the 10-day some time to catch up. So, you know, those are the things that I'm looking at that are good trades, I think, at least this morning. So that's working so far. But, you know, the indexes are a little bit tepid today with, you know, the NASDAQ comes right up to the peak. I think that's actually a new closing high, is it not, Dr. K? It is. Yeah,
So yeah.
You know, I don't know about a Santa Claus rally. That's actually a myth. But the last 5 days of the trading day and the trading year and the first 2 days of the new year tend to be tends to be a good trading period on the upside, or you know, a bullish period. So you're really still, even though you might say the uptrend continues, you're really still just going sideways here. So to me, it's a little bit ponderous, and I still maintain my approach, which is to come after things that I think are going to move based on tight action that I'm seeing in my handy dandy little HDSI chart, which, by the way, they put up a HDS Investor Software has put up the chart view on their system, so if you're a user there, you can access that. I may someday be inspired to do an after-hours webinar where I go over what my nightly routine is as I flip through charts and what it is I'm looking for. So, you know, last night that brought me to Solar City. And we also saw the pocket pivot here. Somebody asks, if you stall like this, because you notice this is the pocket pivot day, and you stall below mid-range, so, you know, it's a little funky there. But the market was not exactly in rip-roaring mood that day, and so, you know, for that to stall a little bit, that's okay. Dr. J, what's your take on that? As long as that holds above the 10 and the 50-day, are you okay with that?
Yeah, I mean, you know, it had a gap down there, but then it's reclaimed itself by rounding out its base and tracking to the 50-day moving average, and we've got some good volume today. So overall, the pattern is constructive enough, and I would say that you know, this is a potential pocket pivot.
Yeah, and it worked. I mean, if you bought into it, you had to sit through this yesterday, and I admit that would have been very difficult, because I actually did buy a little bit of this, but I was blowing it out intraday once the market started to roll over. But I'm quite willing to come right back today with the momentum of the market turning to the upside. Yeah, I note right now that we're about 8:13 a.m. You guys get to look at that cool picture I have on my as my what do they call it? Wallpaper. Let's see. What am I looking at? Oh yeah, here we go. Volume is actually up versus yesterday at this time of the day on both exchanges. So you're getting some pretty decent action today, and you're churning around this morning. So it'd be interesting to see where you go from here. But I would pick your spots very carefully and very deliberately without getting carried away, because there are some things that were in good spots to buy. They may or may not be following through today. Let's go through some of the things I'm looking at. For example, Taser, it had this pocket pivot. That's very V-shaped. And I know in the book we talk about, when a stock goes straight down through the moving average and then right back up to it and has a pocket pivot, that can be a flawed pocket pivot. Yes, Dr. K, am I right on that?
I would say, yeah, that's correct.
And so what you need to see is some backing and filling to kind of correct that, because it could be constructive, but you got to watch and see how this pans out. Right now, you're not getting any love on this today because the stock is down. Another one I was looking at that I bought this morning is Yelp, but to me, I don't know about this pattern. It's kind of head and shoulders-y, and it's still got a lot of overhead in here, and it bounces up, and rallies today after opening down, so it gave you a shot to buy it, and you get $1.50 out of it. If I'm running a 70% position, I can make some money on that, combined with the Solar City and Twitter moving up on the day. But it's not clear to me that you're going to start buying everything under the sun and making piles of money. Even Facebook yesterday, that's actually a cup breakout on a pocket pivot volume signature, so not really enough volume for a standard issue breakout, but it was a pocket pivot breakout, but pretty extended. So in our view, this isn't really actionable. Of course, the next day, today, Zuckerberg is selling how many shares, Dr. Like 72 million shares or something, 62 million, I forget.
Yeah,
some large number.
Enough to disturb the market.
Pardon me?
Enough to disturb the market.
Right, and stock gapped down over $1 this morning. It's trying to rally back, and they were saying he's pretty shrewd doing that today because the index funds, I think they have to finish their buying out. Is it today? In terms of getting their positions in Facebook. So, he's probably unloading it into here. I think at best you're going to have to see this stock form a handle, and unless it turns into some big double top. I noticed Align is one. We've been watching this. You had a little pocket pivot. I think you might have just cleared right in here. You're slightly above the 10-day, but it looks like it's recovering. This one was down because I believe this Danaher is selling 4.6 million shares, and they dumped that. Spooked everybody. Stock found support at the 50-day moving average. Had a pocket pivot off the 50-day moving average, but that's a supporting action there. It's somewhat constructive, and the stock's been up for the last 6 days after that. And so this is trying to rebuild. So this is probably one to keep an eye on. If you look at the weekly chart, that's starting to look like a decent base, but it probably needs a little more time. You might see it back and fill. If you had another pullback into the 10 or 20-day moving averages, that might be an actionable spot. So, of course, all this assumes that the market's going to remain hunky-dory. It actually would not surprise me if the market reconsidered all of this QE stuff and decided to correct here, because bullishness is still rampant, and it's at huge, huge levels relative to bearishness. So I think you are in a position to fool the crowd. And yesterday's action, you can't say it's climactic until you start to see things roll over after that. But it's possible, like everybody in the pool now, and everybody jumps in, and maybe with so many bulls out there, what you have is a situation where everybody's on one side of the boat, and they're going to tip it. So, that's one thing to be cognizant of. And I think also that, like I was saying, the best way to approach this is be very deliberate about what you're buying and where you're buying it. I don't think you just fly into things and expect to make a pile of money right off the bat. Of course, unless you bought Solar City this morning. Workday, I still like this stock. It's moving above the 10-day, but you're going to need to exceed, looks like, what's the volume here? 1.5 million. 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 1.
We're under 10%. 10% under average.
1,265,000, say. So you're going to need to exceed that to pop up a pocket pivot in here. You still have some overhead in here, but if you look at the weekly chart, I like the way this is setting up. It's getting tight in here, so it looks okay. You got a little bit of this, but nothing huge, and it's up on the day slightly, but it's kind of hanging in there pretty tight. I kind of like it pulling into the 20-day the way it gets some support off of there, so it's holding that pretty well. You got some support here 6 days ago off the 50 days, so that's one name I like very much, and looking to add to the position depending on how it acts. Groupon suddenly going nuts to the upside, double bottom type formation here, so you got a breakout through the peak of the double bottom 62 cents ago, so that's about 5%. It's about 5% past that breakout point, so you're just within range of buying it if you wanted to, but I think I'd let this thing pull back if I was interested in it. I'm not sure what's pushing it. Dr. K, do you know what's pushing Groupon today? I mean, that's a name that we've been pretty lukewarm on for a while. It started
Yeah, I
to
mean,
look
the earnings seem like it's a turnaround. Like it was having trouble in the beginning, and then now the earnings are starting to catch up, and so I guess the price is reflecting that.
Yeah, so it's but it's extended, so you can't really buy it. I noticed the solars, along with Solar City, of course. Canadian Solar is trying to round out a base here. Here you have a nice move on just about average volume coming up off of the 10-day and the 20-day. These are still trying to round out bases, so I think they're worth keeping an eye on. First Solar is still floundering about at the low end of its base, but it looks like it's trying to make a turn here. So you got to keep in mind, if you look at First Solar, say it's had a decent move, so for it to pull back to the top of this formation, say right about in here, that looks about normal. So that's definitely one to keep an eye on, I think, along with the other solars, because they could become resurgent in a continued market uptrend. So they're definitely on my watch list. And based on my ugly duckling theory, I tend to like the stocks that don't necessarily look all that hot. So speaking of ugly ducklings, GoGo, I think there's something like 56 million shares that came loose on this lockup. And so the day before they run it up, I was in the chat room. You guys might, those of you who were on the chat room, might remember I was saying probably what's happening is the market makers are running it up to suck in buyers, and also there are a lot of short sellers coming after the stock based on their knowledge of the lockup expiration, and so they're assuming it's going to break down. So you run them in with a 10% plus move to the upside, and I think what happens there is the market maker is able to get short the stock, and then as you have sellers, he can be covering his position. That wouldn't surprise me if that's what happened 3 days ago on Tuesday. But you see the thing gap down on massive volume. So they are dumping the stock. There's also one of the private equity funds that bought the stock back, I think, before it was public, has released all 28 million shares of their stake to their partners in the private equity fund. So you can expect some of that selling. But what I would look for here is you have a stock that's had a pretty sharp move to the upside on the weekly chart, but you haven't had a pullback yet since this breakout, which I would consider the first stage breakout. Call it a cup with a high handle, call it whatever you want, call it a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7-week base, and then a gap up move, viable gap up move up and out of there. But I would look for a pullback to the 10-week line, and I think the selling by insiders after the lockup expiration could go a long way to bringing it down into the 50-day or the 10-week moving average. So even this morning I noticed they were trying to pump it before the opening. Where is it right now? Let's see. Going sideways at 26.77. So we opened up, I think they had it up over 27 and like 27.17 or so earlier today. But to me, I think it needs to come down and bump that 10-week moving average, 50-day moving average here. And also that would just undercut this low here. So that would be very logical as far as I'm concerned. And as you all know, I'm really quite a logical guy, right, Dr. K? Anyway, let's see what else. Should we take some questions here, or should I? Let's see what else I'm looking at here. Oh, here's an interesting one. IACI. Is that a viable gap up, Dr. K? And is that just way too extended at this point?
Well, it's the problem with this is that it had a gap down after its last earnings. It was quite a major gap down, and it's always been a choppy, sloppy pattern. So, on today's gap up, it's just you're running more risk than other types of gap ups. So the quality of the gap up is not as good as you'd like it to be. And so, the earnings, are looking good, but sales sales look they're definitely slowing. And institutional sponsorship has been coming out of this stock. But on the upside, you've got the group rank is ranked second, so it could get dragged higher. But I would be careful with this one. It doesn't appeal to me.
Yeah, but it's moving.
You look at the weekly. Actually, is a good example of the pattern's very sloppy. It tends to
You're
violate
right. You're right.
And the earnings line is really not that impressive either.
Yeah, I don't think I'd be buying this move today. So, but a lot of these bigger sort of content stocks. This is internet content and other stuff. I have been moving. Comcast, I noticed. You had a pocket pivot yesterday. Broke out, pulls in. I mean, these are boring stocks, but they can have moves sometimes. Time Warner Cable, which was supposedly going to be bought out by a consortium or, between, what was it, Comcast and, oh gosh, I can't remember the other cable group. But that's what sparked this gap up. And the stock ran up, and now there's talk about whether it's a antitrust violation or whatever. So, on the short side, I'm actually short LinkedIn here on this rally today. I think you basically, you had a very nice move yesterday. You gapped down. You could have shorted the gap down. It runs right to the 200-day and undercuts this low. See that? So right there, that's actually your cover point, and you let it bounce, and now we get back up here. Comes up to the low end of the gap. I'm willing to come after it around here, 218, 219. And come after it heavily with the idea that it's going down to the 200 again. I think you could see LinkedIn become the Apple of 2014, where you may have a market continuing to rally, but you're going to see some stocks like LinkedIn that are just getting too big for their britches in terms of their forward PE ratio and the slowing growth. So unless you have huge growth to support PE expansion, then in a higher interest rate environment as well, I think that becomes a factor. And so I think the stock is definitely vulnerable to breaking down and at least coming down to the top of the space around 190. So that's a pretty good clip if that was to happen. I am short the stock here. In this market, I'm always happy to be long something and short something. So, my happy place today is long Solar City and short, long Yelp, short LinkedIn. I'm just watching Twitter give up its gains of 18 cents right now. Some other stocks, Biogen. Biogen I was thinking could do what Amazon did. Amazon had this big gap up here and then pulled down to the 20-day. And then it bopped off of here, pocket pivoted here off of the 10-day, I think. I don't know if the volume's just enough. Let me see, 4250. No, it wasn't enough, but right here, yeah, whatever it was, it bounced off the 20-day, and that's good enough for me usually. And so it's moved higher. Biogen, doing similar sort of thing, trying to find support around the 20-day. We'll see if it holds. But right now you're basically holding the low of the intraday low of the gap up day. So hanging in there. Alexion broke out. This is a funky stock though. Whenever it acts strong, it runs up and then yanks back. So if I was going to buy this one, I'd be looking to buy it down at the 10-day from here. So let's see, ACAD. I think this one might be a short, just the way it's acting. I'll show you. Let's see if I can get this to come up very quickly. You can see here on this chart, it's mostly starting to turn red. You're getting a little bit of blue in here. I don't know. This was yesterday. It almost looks like it wants to come out of here. But I'd keep an eye on this. It might be a short. I'm just kind of watching this one. It doesn't seem to want to get going. And this is what it looks like today. You're getting some resistance here around these peaks and coming in. So we'll see what happens there. Let's see. Let's go for some questions. Here's one for you, Dr. K. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay. Once QE bond buying is completely tapered, will the continued existence of very low rates distort the market and render market signals unreliable like QE has?
Say the last part, you broke up.
Will the continued existence of very low rates distort the market and render market signals unreliable like QE has?
I would imagine any form of manipulation by the Fed is going to continue to keep signals that were reliable in the past unreliable, because it's, any form of manipulation is going to distort things. And so if the Fed wants to artificially keep rates as low as they've been, which they've said they would, they're going to find some other way to manipulate those rates to keep them at the level they're at. So that's going to obviously have a repercussive effect across the general markets.
Somebody asked, is the Celgene Pocket Pivot yesterday buyable? I don't see that as buyable because, it's supported the 50-day, but it's coming after a sharp downtrend. So it needs to back and fill a little bit in here. So I wouldn't be, getting a Woody to buy the thing based on that. However, if it was you saw it down below the 50-day, notice a couple of things here, and this sort of is the ugly duckling theory at work. You get in here, you undercut this low, you bounce off the 50-day. So if you're watching this in real time, and stocks on my buy list, on my watches, I'm always interested in them when they're coming down, and I start watching them very carefully, and I'm looking for this sort of action, where there's a moving average, that's a logical area of support, combined with the undercut of a prior low. That's right there. That's right in position to take a shot. And it might have been hard to do so. I didn't do it, but that is an example of something I might be looking for. I decided to wait until closer to the end of the day because, to tell you the truth, once the market turned back to the upside, while I knew I wanted to get out of the way on the short side, I wasn't sure whether the thing would roll over again or not. So it was a little bit, to me, a lot of dust in the air, as I tweeted earlier in the day, and it's very hard to figure out what to do when you can't see because of all the dust flying around. And once you have some time to check things out and run through my charts and see where things look viable, then I'm able to take some action and be a little more coherent. So somebody asked me, are you still treating this market as a day trading environment like before the index move? Yes, I am. So I think I already went through that at the outset of the webinar. Splunk. Splunk is hanging out. To me, Splunk is a high-velocity stock. It should get moving, after the Bible gap up. You had this Bible gap up here. Stock had a long run, so maybe it just needs time. It's pulled back. You can see on the weekly chart it did touch the 10-week line. So that looks kind of constructive there. And
yeah, it tends to hold the 50-day, or rather, it doesn't violate the 50-day. It goes below it, and then it never goes below that low. So
yeah,
that's a nice indication.
Yeah, but that said, is it going anywhere? Not really. It's not. To me, it's not really set up. I look at it on this chart.
Yeah, I would wait for a pocket pivot out of this pattern right now before you're buying.
Yeah, a couple of good things. This is as of yesterday. But you can see, you're seeing your longer force index in the bongo thing. I'm not really sure how this is calculated. All I know is when I played around with these after several weeks of looking at charts and then tracking what the results were based on what I was seeing or thinking I was seeing, I just use these indicators, positive, negative indicators, and go through very quickly and look at the color changes. And so here, it's still a little bit testy here in my view, so it might need to go sideways for a longer period of time. ARMH, pocket pivot, that's actually a Bible gap up yesterday, I guess. But it's kind of extended, so I'm not going to buy it. Amazon, too late to get in. Well, you had a pocket pivot here. If you don't mind buying at 396 and seeing it pull back to the 10-day 387, 388, I guess you could act on it. So, but anything you buy, you're sticking to your stops. So remember, don't ask us questions on the basis of thinking that we can tell you that something can be bought and you can just ignore a stop and just buy it and it's going higher. Is it somehow, like I like to say, you need us to bless something. If you see an actionable buy point, you think it's in a reasonable spot, you can take a shot, but you got to have a stop in mind. I actually, not everything I do turns to gold in this market. I thought I could buy some Tesla this morning, coming down to the 10-day moving average. I thought maybe you get a pullback. The 10-day would be perfect because you're right on top of this zone here. Didn't happen. Goodbye. Just toss it. Let the ones that are working do the work for you and get rid of them quickly. So, just because I think something might be viable, I'm basically doing what everybody else does. I have a theory, and if it doesn't pan out, I'm gone. I don't need to call up Dr. K and say, Dr. K, is it okay for me to buy Tesla here? Was it Dr. K? What would you have told me if I called you and said, Dr. K, can I buy Tesla here?
Oh, I tell you what I always do.
How the hell do I know? Anyway, AZPN, too late to buy. In terms of what? Too late to buy. Yes, no, buy it now. It's going to 50. How the hell do I know? You're on a V-shaped move straight up off the 20-day moving average up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 days. Why do you need me to tell you whether it's too late to buy now or not? It's extended from the 10-day. It's extended from the prior high here. I mean, if you know what you're looking at, if you have enough experience in the market, maybe this is a newbie asking this question. And, that's understandable, so I don't want to rag on you too much. But, I mean, come on, this thing's way extended. What you're doing now when you ask us, is this too late to buy? In other words, look at this move, and I missed it, and maybe it's going to go to 50, and I'm going to let greed drive my decision-making. If only I can get Gil and Dr. K to bless the stock for me. Then I'll feel good about it, and I can let my greed run wild. Somebody asked, what do you think of the pocket pivots in the home builders? That's what Lennar looks like. So I'm not going to buy them. Solar winds. Not even going to touch that. It's just it's very loose, very sloppy at the lows in a downtrend. I think at most it needs more time. I'm not a buyer. iCloud. You guys heard me on the chat room the other day when it was sitting right here under 10, and I thought that looked viable because a couple of things here are instructive, I think. And this is a funky little cloud computing company. And they actually, the chart only goes back here. I think these guys show a better chart. For some reason on the O'Neill charts, they only show and so does HDSI. They show the same thing. I'm not sure why that's so, but you can see here, stock pulling back on the chart here. Let me make it a little bit bigger. And you gap up like this, and then you pull in. The volume dries up. You can't even see the volume bar on this thing. It dries up, and the stock's trying to come out. So, it's hanging out. It's trying to do something. It's kind of interesting, but I don't know exactly. It's what it looks like on a weekly chart. So you can see it's a little funkier than you might initially think. So I'm kind of watching it. I kind of like it better on the daily chart. Let's see. From here. So you get rid of all this and just show me that, and that looks pretty good. You start to throw all this in, you can see you got some overhead in the pattern here, so that's probably a problem. And it's a thin little thing, so again, not sure I'd get a big woody for it. So Finisar, I like Finisar. I think it's acting well. Try to get above the 50-day today. It's stalling a little bit. It's got some overhead to work through, but I thought it was mostly viable along the 10-day, 20-day confluence down here. So Yelp. Well, I traded Yelp today, made a little bit of money there. It had a big move, move up above 67, and that was a high here. But like I said earlier, you still got, it looks kind of funky to me, a little bit rolling top-like, and you've got some overhead in the way. So you got a pocket pivot here. It kind of looked like it was failing yesterday. Like I told you earlier, I was shorting the stock in here, thinking that this puppy was going to blow apart, because it does, you look at it on the weekly chart, it's kind of loose, and you got this wedging rally up into the 10-week line. So to me, it's kind of unclear. And that's why I looked at it more as a trade. I thought it'll move up. Yelp tends to be very volatile, and on an intraday basis, you can see good 3-4 point spreads throughout the pattern, sometimes more. So it's a great stock to trade on an intraday basis both ways. And I have a lot of fun with it. Some days not that much fun if I get stopped out, but I've had a lot of big days with the stock both ways while it's been in this pattern. You know, but I still think it's a little bit funky. The financials, looked okay yesterday. They're coming in. Look at that. That's a little weird to me. You would have expected these to press higher. Schwab's another one I like. Broke out yesterday on basically a pocket pivot breakout, and it's holding up, whereas Morgan Stanley, which had a nice move yesterday, is not. And Goldman Sachs is also holding up, so that doesn't look half bad. But I don't know if I favor them. To me, they're not heaters. I look for heaters, stocks that really have the potential to get moving. Like Solar City today, for example. So that was the one I hit with. Twitter not going anywhere now. It's up 14 cents. Yelp up 55 cents. So it's come in, catching logical resistance. So CalAmp. And it's not too bad. It's kind of a thin stock. And I'm not really that thrilled with it. So to me, it looks okay, but not anything I'm all that excited about. If you are, then I guess you could act on the basis of yesterday's pocket pivot and buy the stock and see if you don't get stopped out. Save. Don't care for this. So it's hanging out, but not really going anywhere. Choppy, sloppy, huge range here. So not really what I'm into. ARRS, ARRS. Stock had a pocket pivot off the 10-day yesterday. That's a continuation pocket pivot. If you bought it somewhere down here and have sat through this, where you have not had any other buy points all the way, you could potentially add here, but it should hold the 10-day. I mean, my view here is this is pretty extended, so my guess is if you bought this, it's going to pull in on you. You got anything to say on that, Dr. K?
Yeah, ARS. It's not a stock that it's been slow. It did have a breakout. The earnings started to accelerate, and the sales have also looked really good. It's a tricky one because when you've got the stock that historically hasn't really gone anywhere for many years, and then it finally shows some signs of life on its last earnings report. The question is, with a relative strength of basically 68. It's not your leading stock, so you avoid it. But then, it's moving higher. So that does happen every now and then. It's just that it's an odds game, and you want to really be putting your money into the best names. And this one, historically, has not shown that to be the case.
We're getting a lot of questions on ARM holdings. Everybody's asking about this. It's pretty extended from here. It's about 5% extended from the low here. So I guess if you really wanted to buy it, you would have to use that low as your stop. So you are within range at 52.14. You're probably within about 5% of that. But that's what you're looking at on the downside if it doesn't work. So, and that's really about it there. PSXP. Well, this is a junky little stock. Trades 150,000 shares a day, and you had a pocket pivot move yesterday, kind of hanging out. Earnings are up 41% last quarter. I mean, it looks okay, but it doesn't really thrill me. It's an oil stock, too. So you know what we think about those. They tend to be funky. CSGP, pocket pivot, yes. Yesterday you might say that was a pocket pivot. It's not going anywhere, though. I don't really care much for the stock. It's a little thinny. It trades a whopping 131 shares a day. I mean, I could go in there and push it up $2 for you if you want me to, but I don't think so. It's a $180 stock. So I don't know, what is that? That's about 20 million. It's what is it? Maybe 20. Can you calc that for me, Dr. K? What is that in terms of daily dollar volume? CSG.
It looks to me like it's about 130,000 times 180. So
so less than 8, about
It's not bad. You know, it's 23 million a day.
Yeah, kind of thin. But, you know, I don't know. I'm looking at this pattern. It doesn't really thrill me. You had these breaks here, so that you're just rallying up into resistance. So I think I like LinkedIn on the short here. Looking to me like you're getting the 620 sell a while ago. You're starting to roll over. I think this thing's headed back to the 200-day, and I think it's eventually going through it. So I think it's topping. And now that I've said that, it's going to turn around and rally $5 higher. Anyways, BLK, Blackstone or BlackRock. Pocket pivot, not going anywhere, runs into the top of the base, so nothing exciting. Like I was saying, you know, there's not a huge amount of exciting stuff that you can necessarily act on unless you're looking at pullbacks into logical areas of support, and I don't think you want to start chasing anything. So, you know, but it's not like everything is ripping to the upside following yesterday's big move. We're kind of churning around here. And like I said, you got to be pretty deliberate about what you're buying. So maybe this goes higher, maybe it doesn't. I don't know. It doesn't thrill me. So how's the new book going? I don't know. I'm starting to write it, so I don't know when it's going to be done. It'll be done when it's done. What do you do when you have a stop and one day you wake up and it is below your stop? Oh, well, you buy more, of course. Dr. K, you want to answer that question? Just because you woke up in the morning and the stock, if you were asleep while it went below your stop, you don't sell. But if you're awake when it went below your stop, you do sell, or you only sell right at your stop. I mean, that's what this question seems to be asking. I mean, the bottom line is you get stopped, you get stopped. Yes, Dr. K, you want to pontificate on that?
Yeah, nothing really to say there. I mean, if you were asleep at the wheel, then correct it by just selling. I mean, who cares where it's at? If it's below, you know, if it triggered your stop, get out.
Yeah, and you know, my general view is if I wake up in the morning and something's trading below my stock, sometimes if I can just get, or below my stop, if I can just blow it out before the open, sometimes I'll do that. Didn't the S&P 500 have a follow-through yesterday, or are we still facing a high number of distribution days? Well, I mean, technically, you had a follow-through on all the indexes. I mean, if you're just going by the strict interpretation of what a follow-through is. But, you know, you didn't correct enough for there to have to be a follow-through. So I think if you're watching the stocks, you know, you're watching the stocks and you're basically going sideways here. So I don't think that you needed to see a follow-through, even though all the indexes had one. So not really critical. Yandex finally above the 10. I don't care much for Yandex. It looks choppy and sloppy. VNet. Whoops. I'm on the wrong chart there. That's my NASDAQ chart. VNet, I don't know. It's a small little stock. It's extended, so I'm not a buyer. What's going on here? They're probably losing money, I'm going to guess. It's probably some hot little goodie losing money. Yep, minus 43%. Negative earnings growth. Next quarter, negative 22. I don't really see what the attraction is here, frankly. Not something I would mess with. CSTE. We've talked about this many times. I don't really care for it. It's just blah. I mean, it's in an uptrend. It's gone up for a while. It's just kind of blah. I mean, it's a very thin stock. Trades just under 260,000 shares a day. So that's not enough for me. Speaking of stops, somebody asked, what to do find your typical average stop R? I don't know. I don't really study my stops and do statistical studies to determine what the average stop is. Which whenever I think a stock isn't acting right, or, you know, the other thing I talk about frequently is I'll have a theory about a stock. So, like, for example, my theory on Solar City this morning was it will hold tight. It's going to go higher. My theory was correct. I stay with it. Tesla, my theory was that it'll pull down to the 10-day, which it was doing this morning before the open, and it'll find support there and turn around and rally. So if I buy it and it doesn't do that, then I'm gone, just like that. and no arguments, just see ya, kiss it off, and let it go. And so I don't have, I don't sit there and average the stop. And if I knew what the average stop level was, or the average percent that I get stopped out or I stop myself out, I don't think it would be relevant information. It's just more, it's mental masturbation as far as I'm concerned. So not really necessary. But I try to keep things pretty tight. And I operate on the basis of developing a theory, in other words, what I think the stock is going to do. And then as soon as it proves my theory wrong, I'm gone. So, what's Tesla doing right now? Is it trying, it's coming 140, 143, not happening. So a little bit crummy. CLD, that sounds like a nice cloud name. Okay, it is. Cheap teenage stock, negative earnings growth, and it's got some overhead in the pattern. If you look at this, let's shrink this down. You can see you're coming up. You've got all this over here. It doesn't really thrill me. That's kind of an ugly pattern, so nothing there as far as I'm concerned. How much importance do you place in the action of sister stocks when deciding to enter a position? I place 63.9872578% importance on it. I don't know. Sometimes if I see a group move happening and it coincides, like I was saying, you look at Solar City this morning. Okay, I'm looking at that. I'm looking at SunPower. I'm looking at First Solar. I'm looking at CSIQ, and using the ugly duckling theory. Say that 10 times fast. I look around for, okay, these all look like they're in a position to try and round out new bases. So of all of them, which one is in the most actionable position as far as I'm concerned? It was Solar City. So, in that sense, when I'm trying to put together a theory, I might look at the other stocks, but I couldn't tell you how much. I don't put everything into a formula and then have it spit out an answer, assigning percentage weightings to every factor, like, what time of the day is it, how many times did I use the restroom today, etc. So somebody says, your thought on buying Perigo pulling back to the 149 support. I wouldn't touch that thing with a 10-foot pole. You had a nice run-up, and now it's rolling over. It's way extended. So my thought is, if you're trying to buy here, it's kind of foolish, I think. So what's the volume level looking like on this thing? Still pretty early in the day. It's running 79% above average. It looks to me like it's headed for the 50-day at least. I wouldn't step in the way of this. Do you look at this pullback as a low-risk opportunity? I don't see any low-risk opportunity here unless it holds these lows here. I would see more the 50-day as a possible low-risk opportunity. That assumes that it's an opportunity. So gold getting clobbered. My wife just handed me a Christmas card from an old friend, and it has a picture of me when I was 23 years old sitting in the woods in Yosemite. And man, I look like a baby in this picture. Anyways, Christmas cards are always fun for that sort of thing. Let's see. VIP's pocket pivot today, question mark. Not really. If it exceeded these volume levels here and came up, then it would technically qualify as a pocket pivot. But it's sort of in a compromised position. You had this pocket pivot here, which was support, I don't know, the 65-day and the 50-day here, and then it's come back up, or rather come back down, and it's holding the 50-day. So, I don't know, if you want to take a shot at it and see if it goes higher, then I guess you're using the low of the day as your stop.
If you can trade over $1 million, then you could take a shot here. Fundamentals still look good.
Yeah, you can take a shot. It doesn't mean it's going to work. WOR, that's extended. I'm not really going to play that one, but I guess if you wanted to call this a buyable gap up, you could. If you already own it, it looks good, but I wouldn't be chasing it. I wouldn't be chasing anything here. PII, Polaris, had the pocket pivot yesterday. We pointed that out in this morning's pre-market pulse. Stock's kind of hanging out. I tend to think you want to buy this stock on weakness because you notice it shows strength, but then it pulls into the moving averages, and it's a better shot there, I think. Lock. I saw this break down the other day. I don't like this. You did violate the 50-day here, so to me it almost looks like a sell. I never really, I know I use a service and people tell me I could do it all myself, but I'm lazy. So I let them do it for, I don't know what they charge, $70 a year. It's like, you know, one day's, not even, well, one minute's commissions trading, but I don't really care much for it. 20% earnings grower, teenage stock, cheap stock, doesn't even trade 15 million in daily dollar volume, so it looks kind of cheesy to me. So I'm not really into it. And it looks like, Dr. K, is that a sell here?
I would say, I mean, on this, you know, if you got a violation of 50-day, it's certainly a sell. But it doesn't look good. I mean, it's trying to rally it back up to the 50-day, but the volume really isn't there.
No. So I'm not. It doesn't look good. Oh, LKQ. I'm going to run through these real quick because we got about 7 minutes. You had a pocket pivot, but it's not following through, so I don't really care for that. If I had bought this pocket pivot, I'd have sold it. NXPI. You know, you have this buy point here as a pocket pivot. It's just hanging out above it, but not going anywhere. So kind of blah, you know. But you're seeing a lot. It's not like everything's ripping to the upside. This isn't 1999 all over again. So it seems to me that things are a bit slow here. Zulily trades what? ZU. Let's check this out. Is this some Chinese stock? Seattle, Washington. Oh, wait a minute. Flash sales events. They do offers a selection of over 4,500 product styles through various flash sales events. Wow, that sounds intriguing. That target mothers. Management owns 74% of the stock. It's sort of an IPO U-turn. Earnings are negative. They're losing money, but they got nice triple-digit sales. What I want to know is why can't these guys turn a profit with that kind of sales growth? Seems a little suspicious to me. So, you know, if you want to take a shot at this, I guess you could, with the idea that it probably would hold, you know, the lows of this pullback. So you're giving it about a good 5% or so, more than that, I think, on the downside. So.
Yeah, it's pretty thin as well, and IPO thin. So it's you know, got a lot of risk in the pattern.
Vision China
it's
Media.
Retail internet.
Sorry, Dr. K. Vision China Media. I don't know. Looks like it's pretty extended. I'm not really a buyer of this one. It's a cheap Chinese stock. So, you know, if you bought it down here, if you're gonna buy it anywhere, this would have been the spot to buy it down here around 10 on the pocket pivot. So that's the spot to come after it. You know, not when it's way up here already. So to me, those are just like someone's having a pang of greed. You know, it's like, oh, look, the stock's running up. Do I buy it now? I got to buy it. I got to own it. Coors is slow in its cores, and I don't really like it. But, you know, if you like this, I guess there was a pocket pivot here 5 days ago. It's moved up a little bit from there. You know, maybe it's the new hot ticket here. So I'm wondering if Solar City's going to give it up yet. It's up almost 8% on the day. Look at that. Wow. Let's see the picture of you at age 23. Somebody says. Maybe I'll scan it, but it's pretty funny because it's way back in the old days when I actually lived, and don't laugh, and you know, for those of you who are flaming liberals and you like to come after Dr. K and I as being mindless adherents to some sort of Fox News mindset, which is about the biggest pile of crap I've ever heard in my life. Back in that period, we were on a trip to Yosemite with a group of people that lived in this house that was essentially a feminist commune. You know, I lived in a feminist commune. I lived in an organic, self-sustaining commune where the idea was that we would not purchase any packaged food. We would try to grow almost all of our own food. That was in Palo Alto after I graduated from SIM. So I've lived in a lot of, say, experimental living situations, and it has helped me, I think, to round out my views. And today I'm essentially libertarian, which means I don't believe in the fact that government can solve all our ills. I think power belongs at the people and at the local level. And back then, we all went to Yosemite, so this picture is me sitting at a table. It's a pretty funny picture. I may scan it and show it to you guys next week, unless I think I can do it right now. Then you can all laugh at me. But anyways, let's see. NUS. Well, there was that pocket pivot back in where was that, Josh? Back here, I guess. And I guess he had another one, well, kind of here. But
Yeah,
still,
on the 3rd, December 3rd.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty extended. So I think you got to watch out for is, the thing breaking down. CONN, cons. I don't know. It's up there. It's run up, so now it's trying to move sideways. That's about it. Kiwi. Got another minute to go. I mean, that stock ran up. It's pulling back. There's nothing really there. There's a pocket pivot here. I think we alerted you all to it. But, nothing terribly thrilling. I'm going to run through the last few of these. Ruger. There's nothing there as far as I'm concerned. No buy points. It's pulling back off the peak. So I'm not a buyer, and I'd be watching this out. HLF running up on news that they're not a fraud after all, and so they ran up very quickly. I'm not a buyer up here. It's extended V-shaped move. Cepheid, is that teed again? Yeah, that's teed. Well, asking us about Cepheid. V-shaped move. That's about it. It's up a whopping 15% from here. So I think you can almost get that in Solar City today in one day. But anyways, looks okay, John. I don't see any problem with it. I mean, it's up there and it's doing its thing. So if you're giving it room, you're doing fine. You dog. Let's see. Cali. What is Cali? China. Oh, no, not a $4 Chinese stock. No, I'm not touching this with a 10-foot pole. Couple of last ones here. 3 more. That's it. Wet F. And we talked about this the other day as a pocket pivot. It's run up. That's about it. If you want to take a profit here, I guess you could. I mean, I might look at something like that if I owned it, but I don't. Liking Silica re-entry here as it holds 65. I mean, I'd wait for some sort of strength here because they keep dumping stock into the market, and I think that's a problem. And so, they did that here. I think they did this secondary. You're back there. I don't really see anything strong in the pattern. It looks kind of weak. And no real stable action, so I wouldn't really touch it. All the gaming stocks continue to do fine. Wynn is up. Las Vegas Sand is up. MPEL, we told you all about these previously as they were coming up. And they look okay. So, but they're holding up, but they're extended, so you can't buy them. And that's what I'm saying. In this market, it's not like you're going to make money on everything just by buying into the market. So, let me see here. Anything else? That's pretty much it. It's 9:01 now, so we're about done. I'm watching LinkedIn come down. Like I said, I think it's heading through the 200-day. So, and I'm short. What am I short? I'm about 150% short the stock on the rally up to the highs today. So, wish me luck. If it turns on me, I'm going to have some fun covering. But so far, it's starting to give way. Let's look at the this here. Let's see. So, it's holding along the lows here of the day, so we'll see if it breaks through. But I think any dumb buyers are running out. You can see the volume in here. Whoops, what happened? You see the volume petering out. Let's see here. Here, I'm going to freak you all out. Somebody asked to see the picture. So you guys can make fun of me now. That's me at age 22, I think it is, with my big glasses and kind kind of messing around. This kid over here, this kid was one of the smartest little kids I've ever seen in my life. His name's Andy Press. He's now 36 years old and unemployed, living in Orange County. I had dinner with him not too long ago. But this kid, you could ask him the stats of any Major League Baseball player, and he would rattle them off. I mean, you could sit there with the baseball cards and, look at the back of the baseball card and say, okay, back then, Jose Canseco and blah, 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 RBIs, everything. He knew everything about the guy, and he knew all of this by memory. And, the kid's really smart, and he doesn't have a job today. So, and back here, this is his father, Tony Press, who is an attorney, and today is actually, if you saw him now, he's clean-shaven, and he is a Buddhist, and almost a Buddhist monk. So here we are in Yosemite, the good old days with my Lowenbrow shirt on over here. But that's me. I had a lot more hair back then, mainly because I grew it longer. But anyways, so now you can make fun of me. That's all I have to say about that. Anyways, last one before we hang it up. The Gordon Fisherman. Yeah, Tony did kind of look like that. But a very nice guy. And, the people I lived with, a little radical, but an interesting experience to live with a house full of feminists. And you can see, some of the contradictions and whatnot inherent in their point of view, but very ideological. So it's a very interesting place to live. NetEase had a pocket pivot yesterday, but sloppy pattern, so I'm not really that thrilled. So, anyways, you getting some sense of what's going on here. I think you could pull back here. I don't see everything on the planet working. I see some danger signs in some stocks. Like I said, I think LinkedIn is a thematic short. And this could, even with the market going up, I think this could be like the Apple of 2014. So that's really all I've got right now. Play it safe, play it cautious, and see what happens here. But I wouldn't be getting a big woody. If you got some stocks working, hang with them. Think about taking profits if they get too extended, and be opportunistic. So, anything else you got to add, Dr. K?
No, I think we're all good.
All right, very good, everyone. So Merry Christmas, and we'll catch you next week. Not sure when we're going to do the webinar because of the weird schedule, but we'll figure it out. So just watch for those emails. Anyways, and that's about it for now. So we'll catch you next time. Take care.
Yeah, happy holidays. See ya.